Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another Pokemon TCG video. Today we're going to look at this really cool Exeggutor deck that you may have seen Ross Cawthon use at the regional championships just a few weeks ago. But before we jump into this, I need to take a minute here and give a shout out to someone who helped me out right at the beginning with the top cut. That's Rick Mitchell and Metis Technology. Now, without these guys, you wouldn't be seeing these videos. Let's just say that. They helped the top cut at the very beginning when we were just starting out. So without them, you probably wouldn't be seeing this video right now. So I just need to take a moment and give some love to these guys. So they're a business that supports IT. If you have a business that needs some support with your IT, PCs, servers, applications, all that good stuff, anything Microsoft related, reach out to Metis Technology. They do a great job, and they actually they offer a Pokemon discount. So I'll have a link in the description if you want to get to this page or contact Rick directly. Just make sure to tell him that Pooka or the Top Cut sent you, and he'll give you a nice discount. Now, the second part of this is they're actually running an Ncaa tournament bracket. Now, I know some of you may be sports fans, some of you may not be, but it's free to enter, and he's actually giving away a $100 Visa gift card to the winner. So go ahead, have some fun. Jump into this tournament bracket. You just got to go to the link. I'll put that down in the description as well. And, just click here, get started, fill out your bracket. We got March Madness coming up, and like I said, the winner gets a $100 Visa gift card, no strings attached. You just got to have the best bracket. So right now, look, we only got like 6 people in here. I'll be joining in a little bit after I make this video. Jump in. I would love to see a lot of the people from the community taking advantage of this great offer from Metis Technology. So, all right. Now that we've gone through that, again, big thanks to Rick and his company. They help us out so much. But now that we are through that, let's take a look at Exeggutor. So we've taken a look at Exeggutor a few times in the past. In the past, it's really struggled to be a competitive deck. It really just didn't do a big amount of damage. But Blockade does do 10, and your opponent can't play any supporter cards during his or her next turn. Now, that's a really big effect, right? Think of every deck. They all use supporter cards. Whether it's Juniper, N, Skyla, Colress, Karina, whatever you want to use, every deck relies on supporter cards to find cards, draw cards, big effects like Lysander. Blockade shuts those all off. Okay, that's a game-breaking effect. You are essentially shutting down every deck just by using Blockade. Now, the problem is you only do 10 damage. But, of course, we do have Muscle Band to make this do 30 damage instead of 10. And then we also have Hypnotoxic Laser, which is really the reason why this deck can work. Between Laser and Verbank, we can do 3 damage counters in between turns, and that starts to add up after a couple turns. All of a sudden, the 30 from Blockade, the 30 from Poison and Verbank, if they stay poisoned, another 30, it really adds up really quickly, and it takes your 10 damage attack, which is normally pretty underwhelming, and it makes it powerful. And again, when they can't play supporters, well, their strategy gets shut down pretty hard no matter what deck they're using. Alright, so we're going to combine Blockade with Laser and everybody's favorite cards, Crushing Hammer and Enhanced Hammer. So this is going to be a very heavy disruption deck. I know a lot of people don't like this kind of style. A lot of people don't like facing this kind of style especially, but it's a very viable strategy, and it's one we're going to take a look at. All right, so Crushing Hammer, of course, you flip a coin. If heads, you discard an energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This can slow down your opponent. And, when you can't play supporters, it's actually even difficult to draw energy sometimes. That might be weird to think about, but, if you're not playing Juniper, you're just relying on your top deck every turn, you might run out of energy. You might not be able to play any, and that's where Crushing Hammer comes in handy. And Enhanced Hammer as well, to discard special energy right away. So the hammers, the lasers, just extreme disruption. That is the name of the game here. Now, the card that really makes the deck work is actually Lysander's trump card. It allows you to shuffle in all of your resources. So this is a really big deal when your main form of offense is laser and you need to disrupt someone with hammers. You need to be able to shuffle all those resources back in. And then, of course, with VS Seeker, we can get the trump card back and keep doing it over and over and over. Trump card again and again until we can win the game. So trump card is a very big deal in this deck, allowing you to recover your resources. Now let's take a look at some of the other Pokemon we have in here. First one, of course, is Exeggutor. Evolves from Execute. 30 HP, really bad. But Propagation, really good. Alright, so most of the time, decks, if they run Execute, they run one of these for Propagation, just to pull out of the discard pile and use cards like Ultra Ball at no cost. That's a really strong ability to have, and that's our basic for the evolution in this deck. So Propagation allows us to do a lot of cool things in this deck. It's weird to evolve the Execute and actually attack with it, but it's just awesome to have Propagation as an ability when it evolves into your attacker. It's great. It allows you to use cards like Battle Compressor. Now, you have to search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them. Normally, this is good for just discarding cards. Right, we see this in all sorts of decks, like the Flareon deck and stuff like that. You know, maybe some Bronzong decks use it to discard Metal Energy. In this deck, it's actually like searching for 3 Execute. Because what we do, we can put them into the discard pile with Battle Compressor and then use Propagation and just bring them out of the discard. So 1 Battle Compressor can search out 3 Execute. How awesome is that? Right? So the Execute is a huge part of the deck here. Not just for evolving, but for the ability. Never forget you have that Propagation at your disposal. Now, since Execute is such low HP, Mr. Mime is great for bench barrier. This stops things like Landorus, Darkrai, Kyurem, Genesect from hitting your Execute on the bench and knocking them out before they can evolve. So bench barrier, great tool in this deck. Okay. Now, some other stuff we're going to have in here. Jirachi EX is just a staple, just unparalleled in a card that provides consistency for your deck. So we're pretty much always going to be running Jirachi in this kind of a deck. Now, the other choices here are a little interesting, though. First, we're going to have Electrode. So Electrode has Magnetic Draw. You draw till you have 4 cards in your hand, right? I mean, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's a way to draw cards without playing a supporter, and it's great after using a trump card to fill your hand up a little bit. Things like Delphox and maybe Empoleon could be used in this kind of a deck, but you know, if you're just trying to look at the most efficient thing for space, I would say Electrode is definitely your Pokemon here. Just a 1/1 line adds a little bit of consistency, allows you to draw some extra cards, and you never know if you can use Destiny Burst with Voltorb too, right? If they knock it out, you get to flip a coin. If heads, put 5 damage counters on them. Look out. Alright. Other supporting cards in this deck. Virizion EX. If you're playing a grass deck with Grass Energy, Verdant Wind is just great to have in your deck. It blocks special conditions. This could prevent something like a Hypnotoxic Laser from your opponent, putting you to sleep and breaking that blockade lock. Most decks run Lysander. This deck's going to take a different route. We're going to do Genesect with Red Signal. Now, we usually only see this in Virizion Genesect decks or maybe Plasma decks, but we're actually just going to be running Genesect exclusively for Red Signal. We're running 4 Plasma Energy. I mean, Exeggutor only needs a Colorless Energy, but it's your Lysander effect. It allows you to do that since we usually don't have to use the attachment for the turn. We can use it to bring up something off the bench and still play a supporter card, something like a Team Flare Grunt. All right, discard energy. So it allows you to get that Lysander effect without using your supporter for the turn, and that's really good. Last Pokemon we have in here, Dragalge. This is a really weird one. Still not sure if I like this card, but Poison Barrier makes it so your opponent's poison Pokemon cannot retreat. So that can lock something in place after you play a Hypnotoxic Laser. This is most important against something like Keldeo EX, right? It has that rush in ability. Allows you to, make it active then retreat. It can be really annoying since your main form of offense is poison damage. Then we need to find some way to deal with that Keldeo to stop the rush in. And what we can do is Red Signal out the Keldeo, Laser, and then we have the Dragalge, the Poison Barrier, to stop it from retreating. How cool is that? Just a 1/1 line, because it's not always very effective. You don't need it in a lot of matchups, but some decks are using Keldeo nowadays, so it's important to have this kind of an option to stop that kind of strategy. Other cards we got in here for Professor Juniper. That's going to be the supporter you're playing most of the time. Only have one N, right? We don't want to give our opponent a new hand very often. So N, we're just going to play one of just in case our opponent gets off to a really fast start. We want to limit their hand size. We always have the 4 VS Seeker to fall back on, but just one N because you don't want to be playing it very often. Got a couple Skyla, search out specific trainer cards, if you need a battle compressor, or if you want to hammer that turn or something, maybe a Verbank, City Gym, you never know. Startling Megaphone, just a great way to discard things like Floatstone off your opponent's Pokemon. And then we're also going to be running a Dowsing Machine for the A-Spec card. Now, Computer Search might be a little better in this deck, I'm not really sure, but Dowsing Machine, can't really go wrong with this. So, there you have it, this Exeggutor deck. Super annoying, super effective. We'll go ahead and take a look at it in action on Pokemon TCG Online. See if we can show off our blockade strategy. So we're going to start off with a mulligan, no basics, and it looks like we're going to go with the double egg at the beginning here. So we'll go ahead and toss out an egg as the active. I know I'm going first, so I don't have to worry about losing on the first turn. And alright, we're going to start off with this Battle Compressor. And go ahead and drop a couple eggs in the discard if we have any. So there's one Execute I have. Looks like maybe the 4th could be prized. And if the 4th is prized, let's just go ahead and take another look. Yep, looks like Execute number 4 is prized. And that means we're going to go ahead and find 2 other cards to discard. So I see a Virizion in the active spot. I'm going to assume it's a Virizion Genesect deck or something that's going to block poison. So in this situation, I'm actually just going to discard Skrelp and Dragalge. I mean, no, why not? They are going to be worthless in this matchup against something like Virizion Genesect. So I'm going to Propagation, bring the egg out of the discard, and then discard it with Ultra Ball. We'll go ahead and toss out a Verbank since it's probably not going to be useful. I don't really care if it gets countered or not. So we'll go with the Propagation as well. Get one Execute down on the bench. And I guess we can put down another one. We really don't need more than one down right now since I don't think my opponent plays Landers or anything like that. But it could be an Aromatisse deck. Something crazy could happen. But what the... Speaking of crazy, Hypnotoxic Laser out of the Virizion Genesect deck. What is happening in my life? Okay, that's unexpected. I attached the grass to the active, fully expecting a Virizion Genesect deck, knowing that those decks cannot attack till the second turn, and then what a laser coming out of nowhere. That's actually pretty alarming. That's going to set me back a little bit here. It's going to be pretty annoying. Okay. Yeah, definitely did not expect that. So I'm going to go with the Propagation at this point. We'll go ahead and discard Execute and Skyla, getting Exeggutor. We can also play a Battle Compressor this turn to thin bad cards out of the deck that we may not need anymore. For example, extra Verbank City Gym, since it appears my opponent is probably playing Verbank and Laser as well. So we can go ahead and discard those 2 Verbank City Gym and Hypnotoxic Laser, since I don't see that being useful against the Virizion EX. Just going to thin out cards here. That is the idea. And, we could do the Juniper, but I'm going to go for an N. My opponent has a solid amount of cards. I might as well, reduce that number a little bit. I was really hoping for a Crushing Hammer in this situation, but looks like that is not going to happen. I can use Propagation here, but I really don't need to. There's no way both Exeggutor are going down. So let's start off the Blockade. But I must say, Virizion Genesect is one of the worst matchups for this deck. For a couple reasons. Number one is it does block the Hypnotoxic Laser, which is such a crucial part of the deck strategy. As you saw, I didn't even bother playing mine. It gets blocked by Verdant Wind. It's really annoying. Number 2, Emerald Slash, really good at powering up attackers. And number 3, Genesect does 100 damage. So, I mean, overall, pretty annoying. There's a lot of things that this deck can do to mess with you. So in this situation, things are looking kind of ugly. I wasn't able to find Crushing Hammer, right? I would have loved to be able to hammer my opponent there. You know, stop that Emerald Slash from happening. But now that it did happen, look, we see an attachment. We see 2 more energy. Genesect pretty powered up. This is kind of brutal at this point. Yikes. I mean, what are we going to do at this point? I don't even know. But, I mean, obviously I'm going to use Blockade. We can't really break the strategy. But otherwise, yeah, this is going to be kind of rough. So I'm going to go with the Battle Compressor right here. And just try to thin my deck out a little bit more. See what stuff we can perhaps get rid of. Maybe an extra Ultra Ball or something like that. Discard one of those. Could discard maybe Jirachi. I don't really want to bench that against Virizion Genesect. So maybe we can get rid of that. And then a third card to discard. That's going to be a little tough. Maybe an Energy. It might be a reasonable option. Or maybe Genesect. Maybe I don't want to bench that either. I don't know. Let's just go ahead and discard a Plasma Energy at this point, though. It becomes a little difficult to decide what cards you want to discard. You know, you don't want to get rid of anything that could potentially be useful. But in this situation, I feel like not having those cards in my deck is going to be better than having them. So my opponent actually, benches a second Genesect. That's going to be so tough to deal with. You know, if my opponent just powered up 1 Genesect, we might have been able to deal with that, but now the second one gets the couple energy, and this is just not pretty by any means. I do have another Muscle Band I can put down, and a Megaphone can get rid of those Float Stone. The Float Stone on the Virizion and the Genesect. You know, if my opponent wants to retreat and Megalo Cannon, let's make him discard the energy. And it's just going to become a game of energy. I'm definitely going to need Crushing Hammer at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and do the N right there. And we'll go ahead. We got a couple decent cards. Got a Crushing Hammer. Can go ahead and drop that down. And got a Heads. So I think my best plan of action is going to be, discard the energy off of Virizion. Will Enhanced Hammer the Plasma. And maybe try to slow my opponent down a little bit. I'll grab an Execute out of the discard. Attach, and then Magnetic Draw for 2. And alright, we can even get a Hypnotoxic Laser out of this. And I do have a Crushing Hammer I could use, but I think it's better to just hold off. The reason being, if my opponent attaches a 3rd energy to something, I would Crushing Hammer off of the one with a 3 energy. Make sense? No reason to Crushing Hammer and then discard energy off of one, and then they just attach a 3rd energy to the other one, and they just attack me with it. It's not very smart. But there is a Hypnotoxic Laser again for my opponent. Virizion EX is prized. It's a little annoying, but we'll have to find some way to deal with it, I suppose. And just a pass from my opponent. All right. So that's good news. My opponent didn't really have much of anything. Did have the 3rd energy, though. That's a little alarming. So here, definitely going to go for the Crushing Hammer. Got the Tails. We drew an Ultra Ball for the turn. I could certainly Ultra Ball for something and thin out my hand a little bit. We'll use the Propagation first. Discarding, I guess, Plasma Energy. Seems to make sense. We'll grab Genesect. I guess we can bench him. The only way it's going to backfire is a Red Signal and a G Booster, and it doesn't seem very likely. All right, so after the Magnetic Draw, this is going to be a little tricky, so I do have the Crushing Hammer. Certainly going to play that. Tails again. So that means definitely going to get hit by Megalo Cannon next turn, which is pretty annoying, but oh well, we'll deal with it. I still haven't played a supporter, and it's really unfortunate I have not put the trump card in the discard pile yet. So I would have loved to play a trump card this turn. That would have been the absolute best case scenario. Trump card right there, but nope, we're going to have to Skylo for the trump card. Ew, that's gross. But we can go ahead and propagation as well. Get an egg down since I'm going to get an Exeggutor next turn. And there we go. So, alright. Blockade for the knockout. But, man, this is going to be tough. And my opponent actually draws another Virizion EX. Oh, there goes my laser plan. Verdant Wind going to be pretty annoying here. But yeah, it's going to be tough just because the Genesect has 3 energy. Megalo Cannon gets 1-hit knockouts on Exeggutor. Already got 2 prizes. Going to be prize number 3. You never know what can happen. You know, the Red Signal G booster that could come up at some point. It's unlikely, but it could happen. A 4th energy going on to the Genesect as well. That's really tough. Alright, what can we do about this? Okay. So, we have the Exeggutor. Going to go ahead and drop him down. Definitely want to do that to avoid a 2-prize Megalo Cannon. That would be pretty annoying. And I think I definitely have to trump card right on this turn. You know, we've run out of so many resources. Used 3 hammers already. We're going to need those hammers. I would love to just Flare Grunt and discard an energy here, but I think trump card is going to be the much better plan. So let's go ahead and Dowsing Machine, grab the Crushing Hammer. And you definitely want to play it before you play the trump card just so that that hammer gets shuffled back in. So we're going to play the hammer. Tails again. We need some heads on those hammers. Trump card going to shuffle in everything for both sides. And then Magnetic Draw for 4. Got another hammer. I guess we're going to go ahead and play it. And, Tails again. Oh, this is gross. Cannot catch a break here so far, folks. Going to go with the Blockade for 30, but this is just not good by any stretch of the imagination. All right. So, what do we do? We're going to be down. My opponent will be down to 2 prizes. That's pretty gross. We see an Ultra Ball for a Tropius. Oh, Tropius can use Return. That's potentially annoying. But how do we deal with this Genesect with 4 energy? That's definitely the most annoying part. I'm going to start off with the Juniper right there. Man, this is just looking uglier and uglier. We're going to need a big turn with a bunch of hammers. That's basically all it comes down to. I'm going to need a turn where we hit, a couple of hammers or maybe a hammer and a Flare Grunt. Something to help me out. Otherwise, it's just not going to be good. All right. So my goal here is to play my hand down as far as possible to use Magnetic Draw and keep drawing cards. Seems pretty reasonable. So we'll go with the Ultra Ball into Exeggutor. And then I'll probably just Ultra Ball everything and not take anything. Right, Laser is worthless. Skyla is not the greatest supporter at this point. I'll probably draw another supporter between this Magnetic Draw and the next one I'll probably get. So let's Ultra Ball for nothing and Magnetic Draw for 4. And I draw a Dowsing Machine. I mean, not great. Okay, no hammers. But we're going to continue the blockade. The 10 damage blockade, but the clock is ticking. Opponent has 2 prizes left. 4 energy on one Genesect, 2 on another. I mean, this is just almost as bad as it gets. It would be much better if my opponent hadn't gotten that early laser knockout on my Execute. Maybe if we hit a couple hammers here or there, maybe this could have been different, but this is looking really ugly right now. But my opponent decides to Red Signal and knock out Electrode, and that's pretty annoying, but this actually opens up a decent play for me. Now I can use my attachment on Genesect, and this may be an opening to buy some time. So I think what we're going to have to do is, well, let's start off. We can Propagate, I suppose. We can Dowsing Machine. And I'll probably just take a Juniper with that. N has been shuffled back in. I don't have the access to N right here. So I'm going to Dowsing Machine. And I think I'm just going to have to grab Juniper at this point. Actually, we can grab Ultra Ball and do Jirachi as well. That is another option, so let's do that. N seems like a very important thing to do right now. So even though I don't like to bench Jirachi, we're going to go for it. Putting my opponent at a 1-card hand seems pretty good. And we're going to red signal, let's bring out the Virizion. It's got no energy on it. It's got to be our hope at this point. Crushing Hammer, heads. So that discards one of the energy on that Genesect. We have another Crushing Hammer I can use here. I don't know if that's really worth it. We have 2 Genesect on the bench, both with 3 energy. So probably not worth it. Let's go with a Battle Compressor. Discarding Ultra Ball, Battle Compressor, and I guess Exeggutor, since we don't really need to bench any more eggs in this game. And alright, here we go. Blockade, again, just for 10 damage. Pretty pathetic. And if my opponent draws an energy here, I lose. But no energy. Okay. So this is okay for now. Alright, now how do we approach this game? It's going to come down to top decks, obviously, for my opponent. And that's where this deck gets strong. You know, if my opponent had 2 prizes left, I would actually feel like I'm the favorite in this game right now. But, you know, with just 1 prize left, we're going to have to get super lucky to win. I've already used a couple hammers, so this may be a turn where I just go with the trump card again. I have the Juniper in hand, and yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go with VS Seeker for trump card. We're going to pull the eggs out of the discard while we still can. Crushing Hammer, heads again. All right, that's what we need. And after heads on laser, you know, there's a lot of ways we can weasel our way out of this. So let's go with the trump card. Shuffle in those Crushing Hammers once again. Seems pretty good. Shuffling in 2 energy on my opponent's side, but that's fine. We also shuffled in, you know, Ultra Ball and Verbank and Shadow Triad, things that are just worthless. And alright, my opponent does stay asleep. Now a Grass Energy would mean game over. But, okay, we just see G-Booster, and alright, whew. My opponent just passes the turn after that. Alright, so now we got all sorts of stuff going on. We got Enhanced Hammer on the Genesect on the bench. So now, you know, it's going to be really difficult for my opponent to take a knockout. You know, even if he draws an energy at this point, that's not going to do it. So I'm feeling a little more comfortable. Got the Blockade, and, you know, if my opponent doesn't get an energy, has to pass again. That Virizion does get knocked out, going back into my turn, so we're kind of creeping back into the game. Oh, man, there's the pass, so we're going to get 2 prizes. Oh, baby, all right. So 2 prizes off of the knockout, and my opponent's going to promote the Tropius at this point. Now, if you saw, my opponent actually didn't attach an energy there. So that's making me think maybe, just maybe, my opponent doesn't have any energy. It's going to be a delicate situation. You know, I don't know. This is really tough. I'm going to go with a red signal on the Genesect that's already damaged. But I don't know if this is the right move. This is actually really risky. I was thinking I could just red signal, Flare Grunt, and then my opponent couldn't Megalo Cannon, but there's another Genesect on the bench. So with any energy, my opponent can just, you know, retreat and Megalo Cannon after attaching, and I lose. So I feel like this probably wasn't the best situation to use the red signal. Probably just should have, you know, bought some time, taken advantage of the fact that my opponent would have to pay to retreat Tropius. Try to hit some more hammers. Speaking of those hammers, oh man, this could be big. We got 1 hammer. Got a heads on the hammer. Alright, we need a second one, folks. We need hammer number 2 and a heads. Oh my goodness. 2 heads on the Crushing Hammer at the absolute best time. And we're going to go for the Blockade. Now, if my opponent doesn't get an energy to retreat, we can actually win the game after the poison damage. So the game is turned around just like that. No supporter cards from my opponent. Oh my goodness, what is going on here, folks? This is taking a swift turnaround with some hammers, but oh no, a Grass Energy coming out there. All right, just a retreat into the Tropius. Okay. Whew, all right. So this is getting exhausting. Okay, so how are we going to deal with this? I'm going to attach a Grass to the active. Exeggutor. Seems like a pretty decent plan. Drop another Muscle Band. We didn't really need to do that, but oh well. And I could, play the VS Seeker for something here. I think I'm just going to hold on, though. We could do some laser stuff. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to win. It's going to be really strange. Maybe we can power up for a stomp and get a big red signal and win the game. Maybe that would be a weird thing to do. But, yeah, maybe it's better to just go... I don't know. There's just so many options here. This is really complicated. You could see how complicated this is. If my opponent attacks one more time, I lose. So that should tell you right there. And I'm actually regretting benching that Mr. Mime. I have no idea why I did that. I would have loved to have a bench spot for Voltorb, get Electrode down again. So Mr. Mime, sure he's protecting the bench, but what is he protecting it from? If my opponent attacks, I lose. So that's not good. I'm actually going to opt not to laser in this situation. Right? No point in doing that. That would actually speed up my opponent getting knocked out, and I just don't want that. We're going to go with a Battle Compressor. I actually feel like I should have just used Blockade, done nothing else. And then attach an energy, and then use Blockade, and then try to get Plasma Energy for the game-winning red signal out of that Genesect that's already hurt. So maybe I definitely took the wrong course of action here. If I could go back and change this, I certainly would, but at the moment, we're stuck with this situation. So, Blockade for 30. No real danger of losing, I don't think, right? If my opponent has an energy, I don't really lose. So, okay. There we just see the pass from my opponent. No energy attachment. Whew. This is getting really close down to the wire. I will go for the laser in this situation. Seems pretty good to just be able to knock out the Tropius coming back into my turn, and maybe we can do some stuff with Flare Grunt or something else. Laser, whatever comes active, and there we go. Startling Megaphone. Gonna discard the G Booster. Not the most relevant thing in the world, but that's fine. Gonna go for another Crushing Hammers. 2 big tails there, so... I mean, we've seen the good and the bad of the hammers, folks. Definitely some good times when we got the double heads, the bad times on the double tails. It's a flip card. You never know what you're going to get. But all right. Going to thin out the deck a little bit more. Ultra Ball for all of my remaining Pokemon. I don't really need to play VS Seeker. My opponent can't play any supporters, so no trump card or anything like that. And here we go. Alright, so my opponent's going to have to pass coming back into my turn. That'll be good for me. Boy, this is still a close finish. If my opponent's holding on to something like a Float Stone, definitely could see some crazy scenario playing out here. But Genesect's going to come active. And alright. How are we going to handle this? So, I have a laser, I have a Plasma Energy for a red signal. I think I'm just going to go for the red signal. My opponent has not played an energy at all. So, if we can red signal out the Genesect, bring it out. If my opponent misses energy, it's game over. Heads on the laser, so if he stays asleep, it is game over. Alright. Now, I'm going to go ahead and propagate and... grab a Juniper with that VS Seeker, and we'll go for a trump card. Again, I think maybe I had a better play here. Maybe N was just the right way to go. Put my opponent down on 1 card, shuffle a bunch of junky cards back in. I think I got a little too fancy here with the trump card. And, yeah, definitely some mistakes down here at the end of the game. This is what can happen if you're a little unfamiliar with a deck and don't play it very often, but... this was certainly the wrong way to go. I think playing an N here was the right thing to do. But I'm going to go with a Blockade, and my opponent wakes up. But as long as he doesn't draw an energy to retreat, we are good. This game is over. But, oh no! Professor's Letter! Oh my goodness, that is not good at all. Oh no. So retreat into Genesect. Alright, I need to find a red signal or a crushing hammer, and oh, thank goodness, got the heads on that crushing hammer. Wow, that was really close to being really bad. All right, crushing hammer and another heads. Oh, that's going to be probably the clincher, I would think. That's got to be devastating for my opponent. Oh, the hammers. I mean, you live and die by the hammers, folks, and we've seen both. We saw the good side of the hammers right there. We saw the bad side when we flipped the tails. And, you know, a lot of games when you play this deck, it's all going to be about the hammers. And there is the blockade. No supporters for my opponent. A bunch of cards, but no supporters. What do you do in this situation? Right? Just attach and pass the turn. And I'm going to go with another Battle Compressor. This might be the turn to play N, or we can just Juniper and try to hit another Crushing Hammer to crush my opponent's hopes once and for all. So just going to Battle Compressor 3 more cards out of the deck. Get the Flare Gun, the Voltorb. And let's play the Laser and Juniper. Let's try to hit one more hammer. And you know what? Never mind. I can just attach an energy and stomp. And we're going to close this game out by Raffle stomping Genesect, making a big comeback there off of those crushing hammers. And like I said, this is a pretty bad matchup. Probably your worst matchup, I would say. And we managed to overcome, I mean, a turn 1 laser knocking out an Execute, Genesect with 4 energy, another Genesect with 2 energy, all sorts of stuff. At the end of the day, this deck is so strong when you just block those supporters. You can see how many cards I drew. That was ridiculous. We're going to get some tournament tickets off of the prize wheel. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll certainly have some more for you soon. Again, be sure to enter the Metis Technology NCAA bracket. Get your chance to win a $100 Visa gift card. All you got to do is play. You know, if you got the best bracket, you win $100. How awesome is that? Thanks to Metis Technology. But again, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.